This is the eighth edition of our Hack and Learn. As you've heard, this session is being recorded so that we can make it available to those who are not able to join the session today. As some of you know, the Hack and Learn is a key event of the INDIGO initiative. The INDIGO initiative is hosted at the Government Outcomes Lab, but it is a data and learning community. The motivation that brings this community together is to do data. We love data because it's a starting point for learning, but we also do a lot of learning. And this is the learning to improve how we share data, how we learn from this data, and how, in particular, we can use the data and the insight by looking at this data to achieve better outcome, better social and environmental outcomes. So we are looking at complex social problem, and we want to draw from the evidence that is out there, and it's possible use and reuse data for this purpose. So this is INDIGO as a community. I would invite all of you to tell us in the chat where are you from and what's your name, or why are you here, what are you curious about. Feel free to introduce yourself. We unfortunately don't have time to go live and have a round of introduction. Just one simple housekeeping rule. I would invite you to keep yourself muted so that we don't have strange background sound. Unless you're given the floor, we are a very friendly community. So in the Q&A session, if you have a question, most likely I will ask you to unmute yourself and just ask your question directly. And also it would be great if you could keep the camera on if possible, so it looks like we are in the same room. And if you can, to check that your name is indicated in the label, so we know who you are. On the next slide, we have the agenda for today. So what's happening? This is an indigo bunting. Is a real bird. We didn't play with the computer software. Is a bird that lives in North America and in Mexico apparently. And during the mating season, the male becomes indigo. It is here because it's our mascot for today. So please tweet, share, disseminate about what we are doing today in your social media and in the coming 2 weeks. Today, we will introduce the Hack and Learn, especially for those for whom this is the first time here. And we will give you some tips and suggestions on how to make the most of the experience. I surely learned a lot in several sessions, like not to take on too much and to dedicate special time in my day to attend, but we'll come to that later. So today, what is the kickoff event of the Hack and Learn is the opportunity. The key element is challenge leaders, those who have a data issue, a data challenge to tackle over the next 2 weeks, have an opportunity today to explain what this challenge is and persuade you to join their challenge. You will have a chance to ask questions at the end of each presentations. And we will also explain at the end of the session, how do you join this particular challenge? We have Slack channels, and we will explain how to join them and what type of technical support is available. But also, don't you worry, we will put everything in an email. So take some notes, but we will include specific instruction to those who took part in this meeting today. So before I go further, if you have any questions about today, or if what you would like us to cover today that is not here, please let us know, or just put it in the chat. Okay, looks like we've been very clear. We've been doing this a few times, but feel free to post your question as we go along. And some of my colleagues, Matthews, in our team has been tasked to keep an eye on the chat to make sure we pick up all of your questions. So this is the spring edition of the Hack and Learn, and I emphasize spring because we always struggle to, how do we call it? Because it might be spring in some parts of the world, not in others. And it's actually winter in Europe, but it is Some are in Brazil who have INSPIR Matrices that is co-hosting the event with us. So winter here, summer there. And we have the Indian Institute of Management in Lucknow, India, where it is actually spring. And I learned today that spring has a special name in India, but I'll leave it to Priyanshu to educate us on the season. So I would like to give 2 minutes to each of our co-hosts, INSPIR Matrices and the Indian Institute of Management, to introduce themselves and their organization. Can I come to you, Georgie, first? Can I give you no more than 2 minutes just to say who you are and who is INSPIR Matrices?
Thank you, Mara. Hi, my name is George, and I'm a researcher at INSPIR Matrices and a data steward at the DIGO lab in Latin America. INSPIR is an independent, no-profit institution located in Brazil, dedicated to education and research in the fields of business, administration, economics, law, and engineering. In particular, INSPIR Matrices is a research center focused on studies of organizational strategies and management practices for projects with the potential to generate high social environment impact. So in the last years, we have been working on the subject of outcome-based contracting and started to work together with the Go Lab in some activities, including the Hack and Learn. So we already worked together in the past Hack and Learns with very interesting results, and we are happy to co-host this event again. So thank you, Mara, Juliana, and Sri for the invitation, and congratulations for the initiatives. So we hope we will have a good time and enjoy the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgie. And now I'll pass the floor to Priyanshu, for whom this is the first Hack and Learn with the INDIGO initiative. Welcome. Tell us about you and the Institute.
Thank you so much, Mara, and the team. So hello, everyone. So I'm Priyanshu. I currently work as an assistant professor in the business sustainability area at the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, which is popularly known as IIM Lucknow. As some of the Indian participants might be aware, IIM Lucknow is one of the premier management institutes in India, consistently ranked among the top 5 these schools in the country. It is accredited internationally with the ACSB, AMBA, and a global member of the FMD. So IIM Lucknow has specifically been a pioneer in influencing the sustainability agenda in India across all its dimensions. We offer a 2-year MBA in sustainable management, the only IIM to do so till date. We work very closely with the public and the private sector partners on various facets of public policy, social outcomes, and environmental governance, which is where the Geo Lab and this event actually fits in right into the Institute's vision and long-term plans. So we at IIM Lucknow are very excited to join this Hack and Learn event. We hope to collectively channelize the energy to understand and find meaningful solutions to the problems. And many thanks to Mara, Juliana, Sri, and the Geo Lab Oxford University team, as well as Georgie from INSPIR for collaborating and steering this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanshu. So I want to thank our co-host. As you notice, we all are wearing INDIGO. We are a very friendly and fun community. But for those of you for whom this is the first Hack and Learn, Sri has prepared a couple of slides to give you a sense of what will happen in the next 2 weeks, and give you some tips based on our past experience and experience of other participants about how to make the most of it. Sri.
Thank you, Mara. Let me share the slides here. First, I want to welcome everyone for joining us today. We are really excited that all of you are here to be part of Hack and Learn. So Hack and Learn has 4 phases. So we have the first one is what's happening right now, which is the Hack and Learn kickoff session. And then you'll hear in this session, you'll hear from challenge leaders pitching their challenges and convincing you to join the challenges. You'll then join a Slack channel for the challenge you pick, and you'll have 2 weeks to work with the group of people. We'll have more instructions on how to join the Slack channel later on in the kickoff session. After the 2 weeks, you'll have what we call the show and tell session. So show and tell session is an opportunity for us to get together and show the results of our work. So it's actually essentially an opportunity to see what other teams are up to. And we'll also have a panel of experts providing us feedback during the show and tell session. After that, we invite you to co-author a blog and share about your learnings and insights from Hack and Learn event. So this is like a perfect opportunity to share what you've worked on over the 2 weeks and what you have learned and what you can do for next steps. We'll also discuss and share from the blog post during our peer learning session in April 2023. So this will be the first peer learning session in the year of 2023. As you can see, we have 4 phases and we invite you to be part of all of them. And in the next slide, we have few tips for those who are joining for the first time. So the first one, we have choose one challenge as your primary challenge. So I know that all the challenges will be super interesting and very relevant. So some of you want to join all of them and want to be part of all of them. But the problem sometimes it's that you may have a lot of things to do and you may not have the time to do all of them. So we really encourage you to kind of pick one as a primary challenge, but you're more than welcome to join all the challenges chat in the Slack channel to kind of be informed and be part of the discussion. And do let the challenge leader know which one is the primary challenge you're picking so they can help you with it. And the second point is your challenge leader is your main point of help. So if you need help with anything, you can kind of write to them separately or just put them in the Slack. If you have any questions or doubt, you can always ask your challenge leader. And third point we have is for the show and tell session that's happening in 16th of March, 2023. You'll get like 10 minutes to share your results. So we don't really expect everyone to have like a final result or final outcome for something because all of the problems that we'll be working on are very complex problems. But it's just an idea and potential ways to address them. It could be like something like a prototype or like a beta version. So the focus of the event is all about learning. So that's why we have Hack and Learn. So learning is a big part of the event and that should be enough to share your learnings and the prototype. And final tip we have is while you're working, it's always good to have your write down the thoughts of your experience you're having so that later on you can write the blog because it's always easy to have what you've written before and then build on it when you're writing the blog and sharing your experience with everyone. That's all on my side. I really don't want to take any more time as we have a very packed agenda, as Mara mentioned. Back to you, Mara.
Thank you, Shri. I can't emphasize enough how much the learning is the focus of this event, and we are trying to design better ways to represent data, making sense of data, linking up data. And we are really lucky to have the support of open data services that give us the technical help. And over the various Hack and Learn, I can't tell how impressive it has been to be part of the chat conversation and then having James or Nilima coming in. It's like, do you mean something like this? And then the idea turned into a visualization. So I would like to invite Open Data Services, James and Nilima, to introduce themselves briefly and explain the type of support they are providing over these coming weeks. Who goes first? James, Nilima, up to you.
Hello. So I'm based up in Edinburgh in Scotland with Open Data Services. We're a workers co-op. So we've worked with INDIGO for many years. We are here to help the teams with any technical issues, help getting the data, looking at the data sets. But we're very much going to be led by the teams. It's your ideas, and we're very keen to hear what you come up with. And we'll be available in Slack over the event.
Yeah, just joining in to say hi, everyone. I'm Nilima. James and I, like James said, will be on the Slack for all the days of the Hack and Learn. So if there's anything you need regarding any of your technical questions, please feel free to reach out, or we can signpost you to where things are. Looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you both. And really when you go on the INDIGO web pages and you see things, you will see results in part of what we've been doing during this Hack and Learn. So this prototype, some of them will really turn into permanent features on our platform if the community thinks they're helpful. So without further ado, I now launch ourselves in the challenges. We have 3 challenges in this session of the Hack and Learn. Then we are number challenge 28, 29, and 30 because we have challenges in previous Hack and Learn, and we still value them. So we don't start from 0 every time. We are starting from 28. So each challenge champion, the challenge leader, has 10 minutes to give you the highlights and overview of what the challenge is about, what they aim to achieve by the end of the collaboration with those who participate in the coming 2 weeks. The first challenge today, as you can see here, is populating the impact bond dataset cost variable, and is being presented to us by Juliana. So over to you, Juliana, 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mara. And I am delighted to invite you all to be part of challenge number 28. And the title of this challenge is, how much does it cost populating the impact bond dataset cost variables? If we go to the next slide, we are going to see that this challenge is a continuation of a previous challenge that we worked on for the past edition of the Hack and Learn. So we got together with a group of practitioners, researchers, evaluators, fund managers, investors, people who have real experience in running impact bond projects. And we analyzed the variables that we had in the impact bond dataset. And we realized that there was one set of variables missing, and that set of variables was a set of variables on cost. We really needed to develop some variables to capture how much it costed to run a social impact bond. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to show you a bit how we worked with this challenge. We came up with the shared document, and we all started to suggest variables to capture cost at different stages of the impact bond phases. I really can't go one by one now, but I just want to say that it was a very, very interactive group, and we came up with 3 main phases, and then we attached different variables to those phases. So realized that there were 3 main periods of time when you have different type of costs, and those periods were the design and development phase of an impact bond, the contract setup and negotiation phase, and the operational and management phase of an impact bond. And then we have 3 subsets of variables that we want to work on. If we go to the next slide, I will tell you a bit something that was puzzling us during challenge 24, which was that the cost looks very different for outcome payers and for investors or fund managers or providers. This is to say that cost looks very different if you are on the supply side or if you are on the demand side of the outcomes. So our solution was to create 2 separate tabs for the supply and the demand side, or let's say for the outcome payer side and the service provider, fund manager, investor side. And this is what we came up with. If we go to the next slide, we're going to see that we have 2 different tabs. One is the outcome payer tab, and the other one is the provider cost type. I can't go one by one right now, but for the people who join the challenge, I will go one by one. I will explain what information is captured by each variable, and we will see how we can keep working with this set of variables. If we go to the next slide, I also want to show you a bit of work that we did for the INDIGO data dictionary. As you know, we have a data dictionary that goes hand in hand with the impact bond data set. And here we have all the data definitions for every single variable that we use in the impact bond data set. We added a big list of definitions for our cost variables. I'm going to share these links later for those who are interested in this. But this is the place where you would find a definition for every single variable. And our idea is to keep increasing this data dictionary in the future. I will tell you a bit more about our main challenge in the next slide. So as you saw before, the new spreadsheets and tabs that I showed you are empty. So at the moment we have a structure or a skeleton of variables, but we have no real data in them yet. So the idea for this challenge is that we're going to look for data on impact bond costs. we're going to do we're going to start looking for data in reports, in official documents, in websites, in press releases, in every single place where we can find some data on the cost of running an impact bond model. And once we find that data, we're going to populate the spreadsheet, and we're going to think about how well the variables that we created last time adapt to the real data. So maybe we need to think if we need to add more variables, maybe we need to tweak some of the old variables, or maybe the model is working perfectly well and we don't need to do anything, but I doubt it. So let's see. If we go to the next slide, I can tell you a bit more how we're going to structure this challenge. So first, we will have an initial meeting and we're going to decide who is looking for data on which impact bond projects. We're going to divide the projects among the different participants of the group. Then we will identify those projects with available data on costs and populate the spreadsheet together. So no worries, all the work related with populating the spreadsheet is something that I can teach and something that I can show you, so we can learn all together about that. And finally, we will think and reflect on how well the data model captured that data on costs. And we will, if we realize that there is something that we need to change or tweak, we will come up with some solutions or suggestions, and we're going to have a chat with James and Nelima from Open Data Services, and we're going to come up with some ideas, and let's see if in the future we can keep working on this challenge around costs. This is my invitation to be part of challenge number 28. I personally think that this is a very, very interesting challenge. And if you have any other doubts, I can answer them here on the chat. Or you can send me an email. In the next slide, I think I'm sharing my email. And this is all on my side. It's back to you, Mara, and I am happy to take questions on the chat too.
Thank you, Juliana. As Juliana says, please post your question in the chat for now. We'll go through the 3 challenges one after the other, and we'll pause at the end of the challenges to take up questions. I just want to emphasize that I was in a call, like it happens all the time, but really recently, yesterday I was in a call where we were talking of how people say how the transaction costs of these instruments are high, but very few people can really point to a number. So it's an evidence, almost an evidence-free statement. There is anecdotal evidence and some qualitative information, but in terms of how much actually it costs more than traditional way of running programs is still a mystery. So hopefully this challenge will help us progressing that question. So let's move on to challenge number 29, which is being led by Priyanshu. It's understanding measurement in impact bonds. Over to you, Priyanshu.
Thanks, Mara. So I would like to welcome and invite participants to join this challenge. We will try to seek what is measurement, how is measurement done in the impact bonds that have been structured so far. So since some of you might be slightly unfamiliar, so I want you to discuss the impact bond structure. So if you could could you move to that? Yeah. So a typical impact bond works in a manner where there is a service provider which is trying to create some kind of social outcomes. This could be an NGO which is trying to educate poor students in rural areas. So as part of an impact bond, there would be an investor which will put in the money upfront to fund the activities of this NGO or the service provider. And based on whether the NGO or the service provider is able to achieve those social outcomes, we will have another outcome payer which will give back the risk capital back to the investor. So in this entire structure, as it would be very evident, measurement is essential, very crucial to the design of the impact bonds. Why? Because financial rewards for performance are tied to measurement. Measurement is also crucial to validate whether the project has really been successful in improving the welfare of the target beneficiaries. And it can also help in providing insights for design of future projects. Can you move to the next slide? So typical impact bond comprises measurement framework comprises of 3 parts. First, what is the metric? What is the measurement that we use to track performance in a social outcome? Next, what is the method, evaluation technique through which we try to capture this metric, try to capture the information that can tell us about impact happening? And third, how do we tie up this metric to financial performance? So we can look at each of these one by one. Next slide. So the metric can be understood as from the theory of change. So every project has a certain theory of change where we seek to conduct a few kind of activities to create some kind of impact goals, which will lead us to outputs, which will translate into outcomes. I will give an example. So for instance, for a service provider that is seeking to provide education to poor students, so inputs would be budgets, teachers. The activity that they will undertake is enrollment of students into the school, teaching them. The outputs would be number of students who are able to successfully graduate from the program, and outcomes would be the improvement in their learning levels, improvement in their knowledge, cognition, and things like that. Metrics can be set at either of these stages, or in some cases, jointly at these stages. Next slide. Similarly, payment structure, there are multiple options of a payment structure. So one can simply say every single participant that achieves a certain minimum score, say scoring 60 out of 100 marks on a test, it could be binary, where the payment is made if say X% or say 50% of your beneficiary population actually achieve that target, and otherwise you don't get any financial rewards. It could be also structured as a distance traveled per capita, which is, did every student, whether they started off at 30 or 70, did they register an increase in say 10 marks, right? Similarly, you can also do that at an average. Most impact bonds use either of these payment mechanisms to structure the transaction. Next. Third is the evaluation method. How do you capture the measurement? It could be captured through looking at the administrative data generated as course of the project. It could be done through interviews, semi-structured questions, experimental methods, and various approaches. Can we move on? Next slide. As an example, this is a real example from Educate Girls Impact Bonds, where there were two outcome metrics. One is number of students, number of girl children enrolled for education, and two, the percentage improvement in learning outcomes that we were able to see as an outcome of this activity. Next. So for this challenge, we want to understand the measurement framework comprises of these three parts: the payment structure, the metric, and the evaluation mechanism across various impact bonds that have been transacted so far. Next. So in a sense, our challenge is to really understand the theory of change that underlies an impact bond. We expect the participants to come up and classify, reflect on what metrics are being used. Are we using output metrics? Are we using outcome metrics? What kind of payment structures are being used? Are we using per capita, binary, distance travel, etc.? And what kind of evaluation methods are being used? We can do that on a sector by sector basis. We can do on a bond by bond basis, or howsoever the challenge team wants to take it up. Next. So based on this analysis of these three questions, our main insight, we hope to get some insights around whether are we seeing some kind of a standardization in measurement across the different impact bonds. Are we seeing how do these metrics, payment structures align with the envisaged objectives of the project? So on the whole, we invite participants to draw suitable trends and insights and hopefully convert it into a good presentation and insights around this challenge. Next. So the way we will start, like the previous challenge, we will have an initial meeting where we'll try to discuss and come up with a strategy as to how do we populate this information. We are hoping to classify the existing impact bonds, which are all of the data is available on the GEO website, the INDIGO database. and try to classify them into activity, output, or outcome metrics. We will try to understand the payment structures. We will try to document the evaluation method used and try to draw suitable insights and visualization. As we move ahead, obviously, I will explain a little bit more. We can obviously go into a little bit of a detail, and I wholeheartedly invite all of you to join the challenge at 29. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take that on a chat box, or you can also write to me over there. Thank you. Over to you, Mara.
Thank you so much, Priyansu. So challenge number 29 on the ins and outs of measurement in impact bonds for the analysis, but I think your contribution will be beyond impact bonds. So how do we measure the impact of programs in general, although the application is on this particular data set? And I think Gola will enjoy joining this challenge, as we've been working for some time to try and to understand the outcominess of the indicator used to make payments and how it has been measured in terms of the technicality used. So challenge number 29 for those who want to join. And now I'll pass to our third challenge, which is challenge number 30, which is being led by Georgie and is on reviewing our data model for outcome metrics. Georgie, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm here again now to invite you to join challenge 30. This challenge is about social impact bonds and also related to outcome metrics. So I hope you will join us. So next slide, please. It's a more conceptual challenge. So to start with, we have how our data is nowadays. So we have spreadsheets with a bunch of information about metrics. And next, please. So we also have a dictionary related to how is these outcome metrics, how is the definition of that, how is the type of these in all these spreadsheets. So this challenge aims to think about a little bit about how the data is structured and how, if it fits well, if we should move on, what we should do to make it better. So next, please. Next. So just to give some examples, here we have some individual level metrics. So for instance, we can have a project to provide accommodation for homeless. We can have a project to provide training and education opportunities. We also can have a project, for instance, related to entry into employment. So these are individual level metrics, but we also can have some other kind of metrics more related to the system level metrics. Next, please. So for instance, we can have a project trying to expand the number of labor market, the number of companies who are with participants in the program related to labor market. We can also have programs to improve the learning of students in a given group. So these are more related to system level metrics. Next, please. So what we want to do in this challenge that's more conceptual, we want to think about if our data is enough to capture all these different types of outcome metrics, and if what's good, what's not good, what could be improved in this sense. So how we are going to do this? Please, next. So we will have an initial meeting to decide and which of the participants will be in charge of which contract. We're going to identify from these projects which are the metrics related to the system level. And finally, we will reflect on how good the data is and how we could improve it to bring better results based on the data that we have. So basically, this is our challenge. So I hope you will join us. So for more information, we have my email, and we also will have a meeting right after, so we can discuss in more details this challenge. So please join us. We will be very happy having you in this challenge 13.
Thank you, Georgie. So these are our 3 challenges for this edition of the Hack and Learn. I'll pause because I want to take any questions you have. There is one in the chat. I have one for Georgie. I'll voice it here so that you have time to think about it. And I was wondering if you could make concrete the challenge of the data model in hosting these 2 types of, why not putting in a cell? Why is it not working? What are the difficulties currently in listing a individual metric or a system metric in the same way? Why does the model seems unsatisfactory? If you can tell us a little bit more about that. But there is a question for Juliano in the chat by Ian. Do you want to come in and ask this question, Ian?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Historically, there's always been a problem getting data on cost because people have, there's commercial sensitivity around costs in these kind of contracts things. So that's one part of the question. How likely are we to access a significant amount of data on that? But the other part is, because I'm a practitioner, I'm not from academia. So if we're looking for that kind of information, would we need to have a lot of that information in terms of academic research will be behind paywalls? And I just wonder how easy it would be for some of the participants necessarily to be able to access that information if it's behind the paywall.
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you, Ian. And I really agree with you. It's very difficult to find data on cost. But I've been doing some homework before the Hack and Learn, and I already identified some publicly available reports with some data on cost. And I say some data on purpose. It's not the whole set of data for the whole project, but it's something. So I think we can start there. I already have some reports to share with you. They are publicly available. And then I also know that there is some data behind paywall, but if it is an academic journal, I think I could access this because the university has a license, and I will make sure to share it with the people in my group so we can all read the same papers and access the same reports and documents. I know we are not going to get perfect data. I'm not promising perfect data or very complete data to anybody. I'm just saying that we can kick off a conversation with the data that is already available. Okay, but yeah, let's see what we can do.
Perfect data would be nice, but a perfect world would be nice. And the reality is we have to live in the real world.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Thank you. Well, even if it's not perfect, it can still be brilliant, huh? Georgie, can you help me make it more concrete? What is the problem with the data model? Why can't the data model simply capture both types of metrics?
Yes, good question, Mara. I do believe that maybe we can capture both, but also we can answer the problems that someone who is launching a SIB, for instance, may face different data-related issues. For instance, if a SIB has metrics related to individual level, maybe the one who is running the SIB could have an RCT, so they have a control and a treated group. So the data maybe will be available at the level of the contract. But for instance, if the outcome is more related to system level metrics, maybe the SIB would be necessary some data in a more general way that's not controlled by the one who's launching the SIB. So maybe having this idea about individual level and system level metrics, we also can provide more information about who is launching a SIB and which kind of data is necessary for each kind of SIB. So I do believe that it's an important issue for who is learning about SIBs, who is thinking about launching a SIB, and also for who is studying this kind of contracts. So I do believe that it's a very interesting challenge.
Thank you, Georgie. Is there any other question from our audience before we ask Ozzy to teach us how we join these channels on Slack?
Say something, Mara.
Yep.
With regards to Georgie's question, I want to highlight one issue that we have with the impact bond data set, which is that the impact bond data set and the data model behind the data set were designed to capture individual level metrics. So I guess part of Georgie's challenge is to think how we can adapt the data model to capture system level metrics, which may look very different from individual level metrics. So just for the people that are joining that challenge, they should know that the data model is already doing a good job at capturing individual level outcomes, but we want to be able to capture system level changes too.
Wonderful. And thank you, James, for posting a link with all the technical details on our data model. So if we don't have any question at the moment, but feel free to add them as we go along, I would like to pass the microphone to Ozzy. Ozzy, can you tell us on the practical sides on how do we join these challenges on Slack?
Thanks, Mara. Thanks, Sri. So let me post the link in the chat. This is the starting point for us. If you click the link on there, it should take you to a page similar to what you're seeing currently on the screen. And then you can sign in either with your email or with your Google account or with an already existing Slack account. And then when you do, the next one, please. It should take you to the home page, and then you go down straight under all channels and type in the team you'd like to join, whether Hack Team 28 or Hack Team 29. And I mean, at this stage, I'd probably advise you join one or two based on your interest. And as the challenge goes on, you kind of stick to which one is more preferable for you. Yeah, the next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the different teams, the three teams. You can just search for this. I'll try and type this in the chat as well. Once you've joined with the first link, you can just search for each of these, and then you'll be able to join. I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody else may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ozzy. So if you don't have a Slack account yet and you had to take time to sign up, don't worry, we will send instructions in an email and you can access this recording, or as I said in the chat, feel free to reach out and we can help you once it's set up. It's very easy and it can become quite addictive, I have to confess. Any question on the joining of the Slack? Okay. So I'll pause here for any additional Q&A you can have on the process, on a particular challenges. And I would like also to give you a chance to share your impression, questions, expectation from the Hack and Learn present or past. As I said, we are a very friendly community. We like to wear indigo, if we remember. And especially at the show and tell, we will do fun, flamboyant stuff as always. So I would like to know which challenge you are thinking of joining, if you already have an idea in the chat. And me being at the Go Lab, I can't help but take the opportunity to also invite you to the Social Outcome Conference. I think we have a slide just to make sure that you put the date in your diary. The Social Outcome Conference we have every year in September in Oxford is a moment where we welcome academics and practitioners interested in a cross-sector partnership to achieve better social outcomes. And is the 14th and 15th of September. There is a call for contribution that is live now. So if you wish to make a contribution, your organization is working on something particularly interesting and exciting for our community, don't hesitate to reach out. The deadline is fast approaching, but if you are just running behind for a few days and you have a very interesting project, don't worry, please contact us and say that something is coming. Can we put the link to the conference in the chat as well? And as I said, I hope we can hear from you all about the challenges you want to join and why you are joining them. As I said already a couple of times, we are going to send you an email to remind you how to join the challenges and how to reach us if you need additional support. As I said, we are always here. I'm very happy to help you. And please don't hesitate to invite your colleagues to join too, because maybe the challenge is particularly interesting or exciting, or you know somebody who might be interested in a challenge that you don't have time to follow as closely, but you'd like to bring the learning and the insight from your organization. For now, I'll stop here, and I just want to thank you all for making time in your busy schedule today. And I wish you a great Hack and Learn experience in the next 2 weeks, and I look forward to hear the insights that you created and the learning you achieved at the show and tell event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mara. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mara.